Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bodhivajracharya Ashtottara Shatashi Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Bodhivajracharya Ashtottara Shatashi Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Sikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivas Adi Gauda Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Dham ki jai. Ganga Yamuna Mai ki jai. Tulsi Maharani ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Samaveta Bhakti Vrinda ki jai. New Govardhan Dham ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. So today is the appearance day of Varahadeva. So we're reading a particular verse in relation to him. This is from 2nd Canto, entitled The Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 7, Scheduled Incarnations, Text 2. Yeah. Oh. 1. Sorry. 1, 2. Text 1. So if everybody could please repeat after me. Brahmo Vacha Yatro Dyataha Chiti Taloda Ranaya Bibrat Kaudim Tanum Sakala Yagya Maim Anantaha Antar Maharnava Pagatam Adidaityam Tam Dangshta Yadrim Iva Vrajra Dara Dara. Okay. So which okay. Brahmavacha Yatra Dyata Chitti Talo Dharanaya Bibrat Kraudim Tanum Sakala Yagya Mayim Manantaha Antar Maharnava Upagatam Adi Daityam Tam Dangshta Yadram Iva Vrajra Dadara. So the long, it should be that, is it Vrajra or Eva, the long part? On the 4th line? Okay. Alright. Vadra, okay. Brahmavacha Yatro Dyata Chitti Talodara Naya Bibrat Kraudim Tanum Sakala Yagya Mayim Anantaha Antar Maharnava Upagatam Adi Daityam Tang Dangshta Yadrim Eva Vrajra Darodadara. Alright, one more time. Brahmavacha Yatra Yata Chitti Talodaranaya Bibrat Kraudim Tanum Sakala Yagya Mayim Anantaha Antar Maharnav Upagatam Adi Daityam Tam dangshta yadram eva vrajradaro dara. Please chant. Would you like to chant Dhanvari? Okay. All right. So we'll do word-by-word translation. Brahma Uvacha. Lord Brahma said, Yatra, at that time, when Udyataha, attempted, Chittitala, the planet Earth, Udaranaya, for the matter of lifting, Bibrat, assumed, Kraudim, pastimes, Tanum, form, Sakala, total, Yagyamayim, all-inclusive sacrifices, Anantaha, the unlimited, Antar, within the universe, Maha Arnave, the great Garbha ocean, Upagatam, having arrived at, Adi, the first, Daityam, demon, Tam, him, Dangshtaya, by the tusk, Adrim, the flying mountains, Eva, like, Vrajadaraha, the controller of the thunderbolts, Dara, pierced. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Lord Brahma said, when the unlimitedly powerful Lord assumed the form of a boar as a pastime, just to lift the planet Earth, which was drowned in the great ocean of the universe called the Garbhodaka, the first demon, Hiranyaksha, appeared, and the Lord pierced him with his tusk. Purport. Since the beginning of creation, the demons and the demigods, or the Vaishnavas, are always the two classes of living beings to dominate the planets of the universes. Lord Brahma is the first demigod, and Hiranyaksha is the first demon in this universe. Only under certain conditions do the planets float as weightless balls in the air, and as soon as these conditions are disturbed, the planets may fall down in the Garbhodaka ocean, which covers half the universe. The other half is the spherical dome within which the innumerable planetary systems exist. The floating of the planets in the weightless air is due to the inner constitution of the globes. And the modernized drilling of the earth to exploit oil from within is a sort of disturbance by the modern demons. and can result in a greatly harmful reaction to the floating condition of the earth. A similar disturbance was created formerly by the demons headed by Hiranyaksha, the great exploiter of the gold rush. And the earth was detached from its weightless condition and fell down into the Garbhodaka ocean. The Lord, as maintainer of the whole creation of the material world, therefore assumed the gigantic form of a boar with a proportionate snout and picked up the earth from within the water of Garbhodaka. Sri Jayadev Goswami, the great Vaishnava poet, sang as follows: Vasati Dashana Shikare Dharani Tavalagna Shashini Kalanka Keleva Nimagna Keshavadrita Shukararupa Jai Jagadisha Hare. O Keshava, O Supreme Lord, who have assumed the form of a boar, O Lord, the planet Earth rests on your tusk, and it appears like the moon, engraved with spots. Such is the symptom of an incarnation of the Lord. The incarnation of the Lord is not the concocted idea of fanciful men who create an incarnation out of imagination. The incarnation of the Lord appears under certain extraordinary circumstances like the above-mentioned occasion, and the incarnation performs a task which is not even imaginable by the tiny brain of mankind. The modern creators of the many cheap incarnations may take note of the factual incarnation of God as the gigantic boar with a suitable snout to carry the planet Earth. When the Lord appeared to pick up the earth, the demon of the name Hiranyaksha tried to create a disturbance in the methodological functions of the Lord, and therefore he was killed by being pierced by the Lord's tusk. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the demon Hiranyaksha was killed by the hand of the Lord. Therefore his version is that after being killed by the hand of the Lord, the demon was pierced by the tusk. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur confirms this version. Om Jnanatimirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulan Maditam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Karidavacha Lampangam Langai Tegadim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Tenitaranam Vanshakapadrubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So again, today is the appearance day of Varaha, Dave. Krishna coming in the form of a transcendental boar. Varaha Dwadashi always comes right after Kadashi every year. And then Nityananda Prabhu tomorrow, appearance day, big festival here. Planning. So Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport that there's always been these two classes of entities. He says the demons and the devotees. Sometimes people wonder, well, am I a demon or am I a devotee? Because sometimes you hear, oh, the conditioned souls, right? And then there's the conditioned souls, and then there's the Vaishnava. So it's like, what am I, a conditioned soul or am I a Vaishnava? Is there something in between? Srila Prabhupada does make a comment about that in-between platform. He says it in the Krishna book. Usually he doesn't, a lot of the times, mention the in-between platform, but of course there's many. Actually, he mentions it many times. But in Krishna book, he specifically mentions there's the liberated souls, there's the conditioned souls, and he says then there's the souls who are trying to become liberated. So, but this point of there being these two classes, the demons and the devotees, or the suras and the suras, it's an interesting point, and sometimes it rubs people the wrong way. Oh, what do you mean there's demons? Like, that sounds really offensive. You know, we're calling people demons. When Srila Prabhupada first started the Hare Krishna movement, he had one disciple, and this disciple had a problem with this. We're calling people asuras, we're calling them demons, and he didn't like this. And of course, asura or a demon doesn't mean somebody with horns. They could have horns, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. It means someone who's against God. It means someone who's against the supremacy of God, the supremacy of Krishna, trying to enjoy separately, right? Like Hiranyaksha, right? Hiranyaksha means looking for gold, or Hiranyakashipu, enjoying gold, and Kashipu, right? Soft bed. So this disciple had a problem with this. And Srila Prabhupada made a very interesting statement. He said, until you understand this point, that there are such thing as demons, he said it'd be very difficult for you to make advancement. So yeah, we should try to understand that. Also, one of Prabhupada's early disciples, she saw this picture of Nrsingadev, and it's a really intense picture where Hiranyakashipu is there, and Nrsingadev is ripping his body to pieces, and there's blood everywhere. It's a very intense picture. Yeah, and intense garland of intestines, right? Intestines. There was one devotee, his name is Antarmali, which apparently means garland of intestines, right? Intestines, yeah. So that'd be a difficult one to explain to your parents. Right? Oh, what does that mean? Because sometimes they may wonder, oh, what does your name mean? So, oh, my name's Antarmali. Oh, yeah, what is that? Garland of intestines. How do you explain that one, right? Yeah, it's a name for Nrsingadev. It means he's the one who has these Hiranyakashipu's garland of intestines around his. So, it's a very intense picture. We don't have it here in the temple room, but they have a big one in Los Angeles, other temples. But anyways, this devotee, she apparently she didn't like it much. And what she did is she actually hid it. She took it down and she hid it. And Prabhupada noticed that. He said, where's the picture? And she said, well, Srila Prabhupada, I just kind of took it down, I put it to the side, I hid it. And he said, oh, why is that? And so, but Srila Prabhupada said the devotees are this is actually very beautiful to the devotees, most beautiful, because Nrsingadev is appearing out of love for his devotee, Prahlad Maharaj. Hiranyakashipu was not a nice guy, to say the least. He was, best of the demons, right? So Nrsingadev came and he killed him. So it's very beautiful, this picture. So in many incarnations that Krishna takes, he kills them, like Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, many. Well, first of all, just backtracking a little bit. So at this point, there's demons, there's devotees. The devotees are happy, right, with seeing the demons like Hiranyakashipu killed. So it's an important thing to engage, our discrimination. What is good, what is bad? What is demoniac, what is divine? It's very important to draw that line. Okay, this is demoniac stuff, and you draw the line, and this is divine. And then to draw that line, and then to take all the demonic stuff and just cast it far away. We don't want anything to do with it. Just engage in divine activities and activities of Krishna consciousness. Because sometimes, especially in these days, people take divine things. People take demoniac things and try to make them divine, or they take mundane things and try to make them divine. It's very common. Yeah. So we won't discuss much of that right now. So in this particular, the last appearance of Krishna as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he didn't kill the demons like he does in other incarnations, but he delivers them by his supreme mercy. And this supreme mercy is manifested in the most intense and powerful way as his brother Nityananda Prabhu, whose appearance day is tomorrow. And we'll hear more about that. We'll hear more about him, Nityananda Prabhu, and his mercy tomorrow. Dravida Prabhu is giving the class in the morning, and he'll do his Nityanandashtaka, which is this beautiful song about Lord Nityananda. And Bajranayan Swami will give the talk in the evening. So we'll hear more about Nityananda Prabhu tomorrow. But when he was when Jagai and Madhe, Lord Chaitanya was coming to kill them because they injured Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu said, "Stop." He said, "If you kill these two brothers, you'll have to kill everybody in the whole Kali Yuga, because everybody is more or less like these two brothers." In other words, degraded in different ways. So he just said, "Stop, please." And he said, in other incarnations you kill them, okay, fine, but please just deliver them. And that's exactly what happened. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu delivered them by the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu, and they became the topmost devotees. They became pure lovers of Krishna in the association of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Lord Nityananda. So, so it's an important thing to remember that they were delivered, so we could also be delivered. But also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he said to the devotees that no one should look down on these two brothers, means Jagai and Madai, based on their past. Because, okay, they're pure lovers of Krishna, but they used to be the terror of the town, right? So that's also important point, that devotees come from all different types of backgrounds, and sometimes they're not divine. But once they become devotees, to respect them. Also, interesting thing that's brought up in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam is that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says anybody who criticizes Vaishnavas, engages in this criticism of Vaishnavas, it says that all the reactions that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepted from Jagai and Madai, the sinful reactions, will go to those persons. So, interesting. So, as followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, we're also meant to help. We shouldn't think ourselves Messiah or anything like that, right? But we're also meant to help in our own ways, authorized ways, authorized by Srila Prabhupada and his devotees. Help deliver the conditioned souls. And how is that? By Harinam Mridanga, means chanting and Hare Krishna, and sharing the holy name, and through book distribution, Brihat Mridanga, which Brihat means big Mridanga. Like Srila Prabhupada says, he was in India, and specifically he was in Vrindavan, and in his last year with manifest pastimes here, and his health was deteriorating, and he said, "Oh, some people are wondering, when is this Swami Prabhupada going to die? Has this man died yet?" And he said, but they don't know that I'm here. I'm playing the Brihad Mridanga. I'm still playing the Mridanga. It means I'm translating my books. Right? Which Brihad Mridanga means you could hear a Mridanga, for a block or so. But Brihad Mridanga means it goes all over the world. People get books, take them all over the world. So should try to help in that way. And the process is very, what's that? We're in the Bhagavad Gita, Susukam Kartamavyam, Rajavidya Rajaguyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyaksha Vagamam Dharmam Susukam Kartamavyam. So it's very joyfully performed. It's not painful. Recently I was reading about this. Anyways, it's a very difficult process that people go through. It's a type of Buddhism, actually, in Japan, monastery. So it's, as far as I understand, it's real. People actually do it. Of course, less and less people are doing it because it's so intense. But just to give a little contrast, I'll just read a few descriptions of what they do. To kind of maybe encourage us more that, hey, Krishna consciousness isn't so difficult after all. So I'll just read that now. Anyways, you'll see. I shared it with Jamal and Amogalila, but okay, so here we go. Okay. So this is describing one man who joined a Renzai Zen monastery on the forested mountainside in 200 miles west of Tokyo. Okay, so here it is. So first it's going to describe how you join, the difficulties in joining. So to join this ashram is a lot easier. So you'll hear. Okay, long flights of stone steps led up to up the mountain and end at a wooden gateway with a tiled roof. Through the gateway is a courtyard of raked gravel, some larger rocks and stunted pines, and several traditional buildings with curved tiled roofs. Looks pretty nice, right? Peaceful. When a candidate presents himself for training, he must prostrate himself and declare that he is willing to do anything that needs to be done to solve the great matter of life and death. By tradition, he is scowled at by the head monk, who orders him to leave. He persists. He continues to prostrate himself, and after 2 or 3 days, he is taken in. Yeah. Apprentice monks are treated like slaves on a brutal plantation. They must follow orders and never say no. They sleep very little. They rise at 4. Most of the time, they eat only a small amount of rice and occasionally pickles. Occasionally pickles. It's not like all the time. Rice. Yeah. Okay, here's an interesting point. Okay, the meat thing's good, but here's what their other restriction. Fresh vegetables and meat are forbidden, so no fresh vegetables. There is no heat in the monastery, even though it can be very cold on the mountain, and the monks wear sandals and cotton robes. Junior monks are not permitted to read. Yeah. Junior monks are not permitted to read. There are many menial tasks a monk must complete in a day: cooking, cleaning, cutting down trees, chopping wood, making brooms. And he is given very little time to do them. If he does not move fast enough, senior monks scream at him. There is very little talking, only bell ringing, to indicate a change in activity, and screaming. There is a correct way to do everything, which is vigorously enforced. When a monk wakes in the morning, he must not move until a bell rings. When the bell rings, he must move very fast. He has about 4 minutes, until the next bell rings, to put up his futon, open a window, run to the toilet, gargle with salt water, wash his face, put on his robes, and run to the meditation hall. You got 4 minutes. At first, it is very hard to do all those things in 4 minutes, but gradually he develops techniques for increasing his speed. Because he is forced to develop these techniques, and because even with the techniques it is still difficult to move fast enough, he is intensely aware of everything he is doing. He is always too slow. He is always afraid, and he is always being scrutinized. In the winter, he is cold. So this is a very interesting point. In the winter, he's cold, okay? But if he looks cold, he is screamed at. There is no solitude. The constant screaming and the running, along with chronic exhaustion, produce in him a state of low-level panic, which is also a state of acute focus. It is as if his thinking mind, his doubting and critical and interpreting mind, has shut down and been replaced by a simpler mechanism that serves the body. But it is to throw away his self and, in so doing, find out who he is. A well-trained monk, it is said, lives as though he were already dead.
Or wishes he was.
Yeah, or wishes he was. Free from attachment, from indecision, from confusion, he moves with no barrier between his will and his act. All right, so I'll just read a little bit more. Several times each year, the monks spend 8 days walking long distances to beg for food. So 8 days, long distances, walking, begging for food. Someone might say, all right, sounds pretty good. Get away from the monastery, right? This is in the winter. They walk in sandals through snow. While they go begging, they wear broad conical straw hats to cover their faces. They do not talk to anyone. And if someone asks, they may not say their names. When someone gives them food, they are obliged to eat everything they are given. This forced overeating can be the most physically painful part of the training. Every day, each monk has an audience with his teacher about a koan. You know koan, right? Yeah, what's the sound of one hand clapping, you know, kind of things like that. So he has an audience with the teacher, koan, each day, that he is pondering. These audiences last a few minutes at most, sometimes a few seconds. Occasionally the teacher will make a comment. Usually he says nothing at all. Like, hey, Prabhu, can you explain this to me? And nothing, you know. The koan is a mental version of the bodily brutalities of training, resistant, frustrating, impossible to assimilate. It is meant to shock the monk into sudden insight. All right, wrapping up here. In January, the monks hold a week-long retreat. So this is their retreat. Ready? I don't know how many guests are getting at the retreat. During which they are not allowed to lie down or sleep. On January, Nimoto was the cook. He had to prepare special pickles for the retreat, and he was driven so hard by the head monk that he did not sleep at all for a week before the retreat began. By the 3rd day of the retreat, he was so exhausted that he could barely stand, but he had to carry a heavy pot full of rice. He stood holding the rice and thought, I cannot carry this pot any longer. I am going to die now. Just as he was on the point of collapse, he felt a great rush of energy. He felt as though everything around him were singing, and that he could do anything he had to do. Anyways, and he meets the head monk, and then they talk about the koan, and then the head monks gives him a little bit more friendliness. Talks to him longer. And then the last part. There are very few monks in Japan now. Nimoto's monastery, whose training is particularly harsh, has only 7. Each year, new monks present themselves for training. Each year, many of them run away. This year, 5 came and 4 ran away. The focus of Nimoto's sect is individual enlightenment. When a monk leaves with the intention of doing work in the world, the Roshi, I think that's how it's pronounced, right? Roshi? Yeah. Is disappointed if you leave. So this is really intense. I mean, this is brutal. So sometimes people think that the process of Krishna consciousness is difficult. But try go doing that process. That's just definitely not susukam, right? Joyfully performed. And even these yogis, they're torturing the body, right? Sitting in the blazing sun of summer in India. I mean, it's really hot. It's hot. So they're sitting there, and they build a fire around, right? Big fire, and they're sitting there meditating. Or in the cold of the winter, very cold, very, very. What are they doing? They're submerging themselves in ice cold water. So living in the Himalayas by themselves, right? So there's many processes out there that are unimaginably difficult. But this process that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave, that Nityananda Prabhu gave, it's very simple, it's very easy, joyfully performed, right? Chant, dance, take prasadam, hear some classes, engage in some devotional service, which is very joyful, dressing the deities, right? So it's joyful. So the idea is that we want to offer that to others, and in this way their demonic mentality is killed. So yeah, today is this day, Varahadeva appearance, and he's appearing as a transcendental boar. There's more descriptions of this in the third canto of his beautiful form with his bristles. He comes out of I don't know, what is it? Yeah, he comes out, and it says that he, shakes it, moves his body like this, and he has all the his bristles, so then the water's sprinkling everywhere. And the great sages, they're, taking that water on their head, Abhishek. So, and he comes out of the nostril of Lord Brahma, because Brahma, he's thinking, right? He's a manager. He's managing the universe, so he's thinking there's a problem. It's like we get a problem on our phone call, text message, email, whatever. Get some problem. Okay, we got to figure it out. But he's a manager, and he had a big problem. And what was that? Hiranyaksha was, as Prabhupada says, the great exporter of the gold rush. So he was really rushing for gold. So he practically took everything out of the whole earth. And then because of that imbalance in the earth, and it fell, the Garbhodarka ocean. So that was the problem Brahma had to deal with. So he was thinking, how am I going to do? What am I going to do? Right? And how am I going to solve this with his four heads? Right? He was thinking. And then all of a sudden he, something comes out of his nose. Doesn't know what. And then it's a small boar. And then it starts expanding. That's Lord Varahadeva. That's how he appeared. Unique way. And he fought with this demon, Hiranyaksha, and then he, with his proportionately perfect, right, proportionally snout, brought up the earth to its rightful place. And people, they wonder, oh, well, why is God doing that? Or how can God do that? Well, Krishna is the most amazing, and he does amazing things, and he could do whatever he wants. Like people say, oh, can God create a mountain that he can't pick up? Yeah, but then the next moment he could pick it up. So he appeared in as Varahadeva, and again, he could. That's his choice. And so that's what's being mentioned here in this section of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have some time. We could read this section in the third canto, because this is brief description here, the second canto, Scheduled Incarnations, but there's a more elaborate description, which Srila Prabhupada uses a little different English than he uses in a lot of the other parts of the Bhagavatam. Like, anyways, when you read it, it's nice. So does any? I think Amoga Leela. Yeah, he's holding the mic. He's really eager. Okay.
Isn't it also that wherever the water from Varahadeva's body landed, Kusha grass grew?
Yes, that's true.
That's where Kusha grass came from.
Yeah, that's true. Wherever, Kusha grass manifested there. Yeah. I don't know how they're connected, but that's how it's explained, that Kusha grass manifested from this sprinkle of water of the transcendental form of Varahadeva.
Ordinarily, you get water off a bore, something nasty.
Yes.
And it shows the auspiciousness, of the Lord's body.
Yeah.
Water off of him, everything kusha comes up. All
Yeah.
auspicious.
Yeah. Great point. That I'll just repeat. That Mara just saying that usually off a hog's body or a boar's body, it's just nobody wants anything to do with it. But from the transcendental form of transcendental boar, Krishna produced this pure kusha grass, which is used in Vedic sacrifices and so on. So there's many things like that connected. Like it says, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he bathed in the ocean of Jagannath Puri. He would go there regularly. So when devotees go to Puri, they could. And also Haridas Thakur's body was also bathed there. So, and all the oceans are connected. So there's, little. Of course, someone has to be careful. Hey, I'm going down to the ocean, right? I'm going to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bathe there. I spend 10 hours there every day, doing devotional service, bathing in the ocean 10 hours a day, But there's something there, yeah. Okay, I think Govardhan or Maharaj, you have?
All right, I did have a question.
Okay.
Find out where I put it. I just wanted, I've got several questions, but I'll just ask one. You said the materialists make mundane things divine.
Mm-hmm.
I have some ideas, but I'm wondering, what are you thinking when you said that?
All right. Well, I mean, for example, you have Ocean Beach nearby, and we used to joke that there's so many gods and goddesses there. I mean, people think, they're little demigods or little demigoddesses, and what I mean by that is that they're thinking themselves in a very high spiritual position, but factually they're just engaged in sense gratification, eating, sleeping, mating, defending, just sense gratification, having nothing to do with Krishna whatsoever. But because they're gods and because they're goddesses, they think it's divine. That all this is all Leela, right? All our activities and right, Radha Krishna Leela. Yeah, right. This is very common. I mean, people think surfing is divine. I mean, okay, if someone wants to say it's for exercise or fun sport or whatever, get some sun, that's another discussion. Although Prabhupada, when he saw the surfers in Hawaii, he said, "Oh, look there's the sufferers." And he said they're jumping around in the ocean, and they have to be careful to become fish in their next life. Or there was actually one devotee. He was telling me years ago he was out in the ocean, and then surfing or swimming, and then he sees the surfer, and the surfers, they wear this bodysuit, black, usually black. I don't see any other colors for some reason. You think they'd come out with other colors, but black by now, right? So anyways, he saw...
Red, but it attracted
Oh, really? Rat attracted sharks. Okay, maybe that's black's a scientific reason. But so he saw this person in the black suit, but the person had his back to him, and he wanted to get his attention. So he said, "Hey, man, hey, what's going on? You know, hey, how are the waves and this and that?" And the guy wasn't responding. He said, "Oh, what's going on with it?" This guy's kind of rude, you know. He said, "All right, let me try again. Maybe didn't hear me." He said, "Hey, man, how's the waves?" And then immediately turns around and it's a sea lion. Sea lion, right? That's it. Like La Jolla, they have sea lions, yeah. So the sea lions, they make that loud noise, you know. I'm not going to try to, you know what I'm talking about, right? The loud noise, and he made that. It freaked him out. So he thought it was a surfer. So yeah, people think surfing is divine, and I mean, in some ways, I could understand where they're coming from, although I don't agree with it, and the philosophy of Krishna consciousness doesn't agree with it, because that's all they really know. Like, that's like the closest to spiritual they could get. Hey, the sun's shining, and it feels, you know, there's some type of impersonal sense of something, and the powerful ocean, but in comparison to Krishna consciousness, it's, I mean, even comparison, but it's just not divine. So there's many things like that, or like, I don't know, people like golfing or something, you know. So, oh, really divine, you know, golfing. Like my spiritual master, he went on this big journey to find his perfect master. It's actually a very amusing and instructive story. And he goes to this person, that person, this person, that person, and everyone's just disappointing him. And he wanted to see all the gurus. Like there was one guru coming to Boston University, right? And saffron flowing robes, and you know, flower in his hair, and twinkle in his eye, and real spiritual looking person. So then he was a young man. He was thinking, oh, well, maybe this is my perfect master. I won't get into all the details, but eventually they go to an airport. They go to the airport to see him off, and then he's looking at him, and you know, this guru, he's saying bye to all of his disciples and followers, and then there's one young American girl, and he, you know, tightly embraces her. And he says, "This is definitely not my perfect master." And on and on and on, and but one of them, it was this so-called or possibly enlightened professor, which was like hundreds of miles away. So it said he drove there to meet him because he was looking, you know, for his guru. So then he walked in to the office, and then he said, "Oh, where's so-and-so professor?" And then the secretary says, "Oh, he's out playing golf." And then the secretary said, "Oh, that's his Zen, you know, Zen golf." So and eventually he meets Srila Prabhupada, and then when he meets Prabhupada, he tells his friends, because his friends are starting to get annoyed with him, like, "Oh, Glenn, you know, you always want to go see these gurus. Why can't you just be normal? You know, we want to go to the movies. Why can't we just go to the movie?" And he said, "Hey, let's go check this, you know, guru out, and then we'll go." And he said, "I promise." He said, "This will be the last one." So anyways, he saw Prabhupada, and he was last one. He saw Prabhupada and was completely convinced of Srila Prabhupada being his perfect master. So, but anyways, about this golf, being Zen. So there's so many things people think is divine, but it's so yeah, those are some examples. Okay, Mr. Govardhan?
Yesterday at the park, Balboa Park, there was this couple, they were walking something, you know. I thought it was a dog. There's all these people, you know, surrounding him, and it was a hog.
Oh, really?
It was like a little baby hog, and they were walking.
Yeah. And everybody was saying How cute, man.
A few days ago, I was distributing, and a lady came by with her dog. She said, "My meditation, dog, my dog."
Wow.
It's a big thing now. The people are just, I mean, of course, it's been for a long time, but people are so much into their dogs. You know?
Wow. It's amazing she said that. My meditation is my dog. Wow.
Well, where do you meditate on, that's where you go.
Yeah.
Krishna confirms in the Gita.
Yeah. Okay, Jamal, and then Raj.
I was just going to add one thing that I've, now being out in the material world, that I've noticed is something that is demonic that people make divine. Atheism is something that people have made divine. Like, there's all these books written about it. And there's kind of this air of, especially it seems amongst young people, like, oh, you've transcended religion, and not even for spirituality, but just for your quote-unquote spirituality. Just you're irreligious. Oh, that's great. That's good. You don't believe in God. And things
Yeah.
like that. Like, people kind of praise this, and it just reminds me of that Gita verse where Krishna talks about how irreligion will become religion.
Yeah.
Oh, you go.
Yeah, they're putting their worship on so many things. People are doing body worship, mind worship. Means, worshiping their minds, mind worshipers, whatever, worshiping so many things. Anyways, we don't have to get in. Okay, Raj, yes.
I just got 2 comments regarding the word demoniac.
Yes.
The original version of it, I don't think there was any negative connotation. It was simply just a description of something that was altered rather than a negative aspect as a demon or a construct. And the monastery.
And you get that information from where?
Yes, my life research and things that I ran across.
Okay. We speak Shastra here.
Shastra. And then regarding the monastery, the breaking down of the mind, it sounded a lot like the military, where
Yes.
the shouting down and breaking down of your feeble and incapable of seeing the aspect of a living God, which could, bring you the enlightenment or realization of what it is. So sometimes, even if it looks like the monastery is breaking down and making you more precise, it could just be taking you on a different route rather than all that strict rules could actually be a way to see God or bring you closer to God.
Yeah, we have our austerities, we have our difficulties that we do, and there is a sense of breaking down the false ego. And menial services and just living the life of a monk does that, and that's good. But then the question is, okay, what is the process to break down? What is the false ego, first of all? Very clear. We have to have a very clear conception of what it is. Second, we have a very clear conception of how to break it down. And third is, what is the goal behind all of it? So, because sometimes people engage in these austerities, and what are they doing it for? To merge into the void? What are they doing it for? To become some famous mystic yogi? They hold their arm up like this for God knows. You see people at, what is it? Big festival in India every 10 years. Kumbh Mela. You see yogis like this. You see yogis like this, But why? Why that austerity? It means their hand is stuck like this. Why? We don't have to do such austerities like that. So the idea is that, okay, there is a false ego, there is a process of breaking it down, but we have to have a clear idea what the goal is and not do it for any mundane purposes. So that was the thing here. They're doing it for, and also engaging in austerities without experiencing the pleasure of Krishna consciousness, it actually makes the heart harder. Rupa Goswami describes this in the Nectar Devotion. So, all right, so we'll just have one last. Vineet.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada is quoting this verse from Jayadev Goswami.
Yes.
In the translation, the last line says, "The planet Earth rested on your tusks, and it appeared like the moon engraved with spots."
Yeah.
What is the analogy of the moon over here?
I'm not sure. It's not. Srila Prabhupada doesn't. He doesn't explain it. He doesn't focus on it in this particular purport, and I haven't read in other places what this description is referring to, or heard anyone. Huh? Yeah, maybe there's other.
Yeah, Krishna is compared to a moon. You know, Sham Chandra, so many different things, you know. Chandramukhi, he's compared to a moon. In fact, Gayatri Mantra, what is it? The 21 and a half syllables? So they're all different. Krishna's toenails are like a moon, his face is like a moon, his cheek is like a moon. So moon is used all the time. And Krishna's in so many different forms of Krishna are compared to a moon. Now this is the boar, he had spots on his form. So he was compared to like a moon with spots. And if you look at the moon has nice spots. So he was a very beautiful moon with nice spots like a full moon. So that's the analogy. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Okay, one online question and then, yes.
Balaram Prabhu?
Yes. Please ask.
May I?
Please.
Yes, Prabhu, the question is, if my tiny, this is related to Varahadeva, if my tiny brain cannot even imagine about the task performed by the incarnation of the Lord, why take the trouble of reading the scriptures which describe such unimaginable tasks?
Well, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Srila Prabhupada commented on the reason why Krishna appears. And he appears for different reasons, right? To protect the sadhus or sadhvis and to to annihilate the miscreants. But another reason Srila Prabhupada commented on why Krishna comes, he said, so we could have something to talk about. And the fact is, if we don't talk about this or hear about this, we're going to talk and hear about other things. And those other things means dealing with the material world and etc. They don't lead to Krishna consciousness or a joyful state of existence. But the topics of Krishna consciousness do. They're nectarian, right? Topics. And they actually put out the fire of, the blazing fire of Kali Yuga. There's one shloka where it says, those who meditate on Mother Yashoda's son, Krishna, it is like the blazing fire of this age of Kali, like the days of the age of Kali haven't even started. It means their hearts are cooled by these topics. The blazing heart is cooled by these topics. So you could say, oh, hey, well, I can't understand it with my tiny brain, so I mean, what's the point of reading about it? What's the point of hearing about it? Well, okay, Prabhupada's mentioning it's difficult to understand with a tiny brain and anything really. But by the mercy of the spiritual master, by the mercy of Krishna, by engaging in devotional service, bhaktya mama bhajanati, then we could actually understand to a degree. To a degree. And even if we go on not understanding, means or having very little understanding, still that wonderful benefit is there, that the fire of samsara is put out and the ecstasy of Krishna consciousness is experienced. And if we're not hearing this, again, we have to hear something else. So better we hear this. But Srila Prabhupada, when he was hearing from Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said that sometimes he was speaking so high, he said, I couldn't understand what he was saying. And Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur didn't just speak high English, means like in Brahma Samhita how he writes, but also high Bengali. But still Prabhupada would hear, and hear, and hear. And his guru noted that. He said, I'm initiating him because he likes to hear. I noted that. So that's something in relation.
Yes, Balaram Prabhu, as usual, outstanding answer to my question. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Okay, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Varahadeva ki jai.